Okay, part 2, because I'm really smart and I went to pause the video to put something away and I deleted it. So, yay. Introduction. My name is Elizabeth Fox, and I am an aspiring author working on a young adult fantasy book right now entitled The Goblin King. Hesitantly, The Goblin King. And I like to make writing videos, so I want to talk to you guys about where my channel is going and what I want to do with it. I'm new to YouTube, never done YouTube before like this, so you can probably tell by my video qualities, but I think it's really fun and I really love doing it. I think it's therapeutic for my writing journey, and I like to give information out to people, and I like to teach. I don't want to be a teacher because I am not that brave and not that patient or courageous, but I like teaching things, so that's kind of fun for me. But I really want to put out videos that I wish I would have had when I was a writer, and one of those things was a very, very in-depth process of writing a book from start to finish, or how to do it, so I really want to do that with my channel. I want to make a video series where I make a mock book, a book that I'm not probably gonna write. Maybe I'll write it, but I kind of want to go through the process of how you create a book, and this process is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a condensed version of how I do it, because if I was to do my real version, it would take too long. I wouldn't be able to do a video series. It would take me years. So I think my windows are open. If you guys can hear that, I'm sorry. The main reason it would take me so long is because I make a mock outline, I write my first draft, and then I re-outline and spend a lot of time doing that, and then will write my subsequent drafts until I'm finished. So if I were to actually make a video series doing that, I mean, the section where I'd have to write the entire book and then rewrite it would be a lot, and it'd be, I think, more useless than useful. So it'll be a little bit different version of what I normally do, a little bit more condensed, which might be more relatable to other people. But I want to talk to you guys today about coming up with story ideas. So starting at the very beginning. And then we are going to get our story idea for our book, which I already have in my head, by the way. So, yes, let's begin. I don't know, I feel really serious. Like, let's begin this. Okay, I'm really not getting better at YouTube. There are lots of different ways to get story ideas. The best way I find for myself is when I'm not trying to make myself have a story idea. When I sit in front of a piece of paper or a computer and tell myself, like, think of a good story, no, I can't. It usually turns out really bad. A lot of times, what I used to do when I was younger is I would get an idea, or I would literally just start free think writing. So I would just sit at my computer or with my pen and paper, and I would write, and I would begin a story. And if I couldn't think of, the story wouldn't take off from the first page, I would just scrap it and do a different idea, either at the same time or later. And if there was things that I found like I could write pages about, I would then be like, this is a good story idea. And that's kind of how I would choose my story ideas. That's one way I would come up with story ideas. So just free form thinking, like thought dumping it onto the page. Another way is I sometimes just get ideas that come to me. I'll be in the shower, or I'll be at work doing my job, and I'll be thinking of a great idea. And those ones are a lot harder to explain. I'm sure people know what I mean, but it's harder to explain because it's really like I don't know where those ideas come from. It's probably something floating around in my subconscious that I didn't think about till that moment. Just don't mind me. So, yeah, sometimes ideas just come to you, or come to me specifically. I will, sorry, I'm so nervous today, and I don't know why I'm so nervous to do this video. Anyway, probably because I'm worried the series is going to tank. But another way is that I will read a book, or watch a movie, or even a song sometimes, and I'll just think about, if I didn't like it enough, I'll think about, like, well, what if this happened? It would be better. Or I'll like a character, and I'll be like, well, what about this character? For example, I have an idea for a book which I want to do after the one I'm writing now, because I don't want to be starting a new project and have two projects at once. And it all stemmed from the idea of course, Avatar. What if Zuko was Iroh's son, or Zuko got adopted by Iroh as a kid? And I was wondered how he would turn out and how Iroh would turn out. Like, would Iroh have the same redemption arc he himself had, and would Zuko, like, what would Zuko do? And that led me to the story idea of, summarize it briefly, it's still in a very, very early planning stage. So, the idea of basically a planet with two warring peoples. So you have one Team A and Team B. And what if someone from Team A adopted a baby from Team B and raised it as a Team A baby, and that kid grew up in that culture, hating the other side, not knowing that it was really his people and his culture the whole time, and like, how would that work out? So I get a lot of inspiration like that, and I make them very different. It's okay to get stories to get ideas for stories from stories that exist, or movies and TV shows and stuff like that. There is a fine line between getting inspired and copying, or creating fan fiction, which fan fiction is fine. I don't have a problem with it, but it's not publishable usually, unless you very, very much change it to seem like it's not. So I'm talking about in terms of publishing. But a lot of times I get an idea, but I develop into something very different than what it originally was. That thing is just the thing that sparks this kind of train of thought. So it's okay to be inspired by things, but again, try to make them quite different. Even if some of the concepts are the same, you do want it to be its own story and not just a copy. I don't want a copy of Zuko and Iroh for my story that I want to write, but that's what inspired them, if that makes sense to you guys. Sometimes they'll just get a title idea. I was reading a book called, I think it was either The Woman Between Us or The Wife Between Us. Really amazing book. I literally, when I was done reading it, I was just shook. I would literally was just staring at the book for a minute, like, what happened? It was amazing. But I didn't read the back of the book, and the book was not at all what I thought it was going to be. So it made me think of, like, the story that I thought it was going to be. Like, that would be a really great story. So, I got this title, which made me think of one story that it wasn't. So then I'm going to write that story, if that makes sense again. And the story I have now, The Goblin King. I was thinking about the Labyrinth movie because I like it. Fun fact about the Labyrinth movie and me. So I saw it when I was very little, like probably 5 or 6. And the only thing I remembered from that movie was the scene where she's falling down and all those hands are like I don't know, like guiding her down or whatever. That's like really weird way I showed it. But I remember that movie was like super scary to me for some reason. I mean, I know why it's scary to a kid, but me as a kid. But anyway, for years I couldn't find it. I literally was an adult. Like, I think I was out of high school by the time I finally found out that the movie was The Labyrinth, and it was like really awesome because then I watched it and I really liked it, and I was very satisfied that after years of wondering what the fuck that movie was, I found it, because for a while I literally just thought that I made that up, or it was like some kind of weird dream I had, but like I was like, I think it's a movie, and finally found it. Back to my story. I was thinking about David Bowie's character, the Goblin King, like what's his story, and like what's his deal, and why is he chilling there and kind of being creepy towards like high school girls. I don't know if she's 18 or 17 in the movie, but I think she was still in high school. But anyway, yeah. So then I got the story, like, the Goblin King, that's the title that came to me. And then I started to develop my story from there, and it is very different. It is nothing like The Labyrinth. It's about an exiled fairy prince and a human girl looking for her friend who's lost in the fairy realm. So a very different story. Kind of. Actually, that's a lot more similar to The Labyrinth than I thought, because she's looking for her human brother who's lost. However, in my story, the guy was just an idiot and wandered into a haunted forest where people go missing. And then Mab, or Ellie, I don't know if her name's gonna be Mab or Ellie anymore. Then she's like, oh, I gotta go find my friend and go on this quest. And yeah, it's not, I guess it's not that similar to The Labyrinth, but that's where my idea came from. And then again, I developed into something different. And with this one, it was more like the title, I think, that stuck, like The Goblin King. And then I thought, well, what kind of story would fit that title? So that's the only way I could, by the way, this is the only way I can actually create titles for my stories. If I don't have a title before I make the story idea, I can't think of a title at all. Because it's like weird, because I think of a title and then I make the story to fit the title. But when I have a story made with no title, it's hard for me to find a title that fits it. And I don't know if that's just me or if titles just suck and are hard, but yeah. So, anyway, 10 minutes in, yeah, I do ramble a lot. So I have a story idea, and this is what I'm going to use for the series. So I was thinking about Siren. So I was listening to the song Siren by, I got this really tight ring stuck on my finger. I'm messing with it. So I got this perfume, right? And it comes with this little crown on top, and there's this like little ring thing that goes there, and you can see it. It's stuck on my finger, and okay, I got really scared. I'm terrified of things getting stuck on my fingers because I had that happen when I was little. So I'm gonna stop messing with it and get back to my point. I was listening to the song Siren by Katie Morg. Anyway, it's an amazing song. She's a great singer, so you guys should look her up. And I think about the song, and she was talking about, because I've like read an interview or something where she talks about the song, and she was talking about how in the music video there's a lot of like really light and really dark things, and she was talking about she likes the effect, or the like kind of like the meaning behind it or whatever, because sirens are supposed to be these beautiful things, but they lure men to their death. And then she had like the light beautiful and then the scary dark and whatever. And it made me think about sirens and how if you like actually go into mythology, usually sirens I think are supposed to be pretty ugly. And then I was thinking, like, well, what if we had this one siren, like a siren who was really ugly, and all these guys would go and try and find her because her voice is beautiful, and then they try and kill her, or and whatever, because they think she's a monster, and she's all like, gross, and they're like, and then they die, or something, or they kill themselves, I don't know, whatever, that doesn't matter right now. But basically, that a siren is just like, fuck these men, because they're fucking mean, and they're always trying to kill me, and I'm just trying to sing my song, and these sailors are always like, oh, this siren's evil and trying to like kill us. So what happens? Well, there's a girl, and the girl falls in love with the siren, and they get married or something cute. So that was like my story idea, like what about a girl who falls in love with a siren? So then comes the process where we start to outline and create the idea. So this is kind of how we have our idea. That's how I came up with it, was from that song and thinking about sirens and kind of mythology about sirens, because I really liked mermaids when I was little. So after this, then you have your basic idea, and then becomes the part where you're going to expand on that idea. So I'm going to take out paper because it's going to help me organize my thoughts better. A lot of times I don't organize thoughts and write them down when I'm thinking of ideas. I will literally just sit and think about it in my head, especially at work or when I'm doing something really monotonous, because I think that the monotony helps like my brain keep going instead of having it occupied with like complex thoughts, if that makes sense. So I'll usually think about things like that then. And I've already thought a lot about this idea because I wanted to kind of make a short story about it. So I've already kind of started to think about it, but I'm going to pretend like we hadn't. So I'm going to cheat and not find a notebook. What the fudge? I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared for anything. Okay, here we go. I got something. Alrighty. So the camera is like less than half, a little bit more than halfway forward on my desk, and I'm trying to like put this down, and it's like, ugh. So, alright, so we have story. So girl falls in love with siren. Love a siren. Siren keeps luring men to death. So they don't want her around, and they're gonna hunt her and kill her. So that's what we got so far. So the next thing is what I'll think about, like how to get from point A to point B. So how am I gonna get this girl to fall in love with the siren? Like, what's gonna happen? Well, if the siren's at sea, then she's gonna have to be at sea, so she's gonna need to be on a ship. How is she gonna get on the ship? She's gonna be part of the crew. So the thing about the Siren is this: if the Siren's really weird and like monstery and gross looking, so why is this girl gonna fall in love with this like hideous monster? If she looks at it, wasn't she gonna think it's a monster too, just like all those men? Unless she's blind. So this girl's blind. So the only thing she's gonna hear is the beautiful voice of the Siren. So she's not gonna ever have to worry about the Siren being ugly because she's not gonna know. So that's cute as fuck, I think. And I think it solves the problem of her being, of the Siren looking like this hideous like monster thing, right? And literally like terrifying these guys to death. So that is awesome. So if she's blind, yeah, that works out if she's blind. So then I think, like, what time period is this? I like to think of a general time period if I have one, if it's important. And I kind of want this to be very, like, 1700s, because that was a time where there was a lot of exploration of the sea, and people still really strongly believed in a lot of myths about, like, krakens, and about mermaids, and sirens, and sea serpents. And so I think it would be really cool to use a lot of that older mythology and incorporate it into the stories. So I really want it in, I guess, anywhere between like the 1500s to the 1600s. And I'm not good at history, so the only thing I know about that is that women were not sailors. So if I'm going to make sense with that general time period, and she's a girl who's going on to work on a ship, which they didn't allow, I don't think. Could be wrong. I think they didn't, though. So I'm going to have her pull a Mulan and chop all of her hair off and pretend to be a boy. So she's going to pretend to be a boy. And she's going to work on the ship, and that's how she's going to meet the Siren. So I kind of think through it. So now I've solved the problem of how I'm going to get from the start of my book to the end of my book. And I have a general synopsis. So a blind girl wants to work on the ships for some reason, and she then fights her way and gets a job on a ship and is just sailing around the world having fun. And she's hearing stories about sirens and about sea monsters, and she thinks it's all funny and silly, but then something starts to happen, and she figures out that sirens are real, and something else happens, and then she meets a siren and she falls in love, and they live happily ever after in Siren Land or something. So that's just a general outline, and there's a lot of blanks that are in there. There's a lot of motivations of characters that are not existent, and we really only have our 2 characters so far. So once we kind of have our idea, this is just where I start to kind of let things marinate in my brain, and if, it also might help people to write it down, so if that helps you, write it down as well so you don't forget. And I kind of just let myself think of a lot of ideas and kind of ponder what they would mean and how they would change the story, and if that's something I want. And then at the end of it, like I usually wait a week or 2, I'll start to kind of create a cohesive beginning outline and start to think about all the characters I need. So in the next video, I want to start my preliminary outlining process before my first draft, and I want to go through that with you guys and talk about things like how thought dumps work and how I do them, coming up with outlines and troubleshooting plot holes and learning to look for potential plot holes and things like that. And after that, I want to work on characters and then so on and so forth. And we are going to be rocking and rolling. So I don't know, that's really cheesy. This is 18 minutes. That's really not that long. I'm actually pleasantly surprised, but I think coming up with ideas is like the easiest part about writing. The hard part is actually making those ideas work and make sense in your writing. So I will see you guys next time. I hope you guys like this. If you think this would be a good series, or you like what you're seeing so far, let me know. Comment, subscribe, share it, like it. If you think this is stupid and you don't like this and I should get off the internet forever and hide my face in shame, then let me know in the comments, and share and dislike and subscribe so you can hate more. But anyway, I'll see you guys later and have a wonderful day.